I'd like to make an important distinction. A distinction which is probably missed very often. But the more I read the press and the more I watch television and look at social media, the more I'm convinced that this distinction is missed on many American thinkers, speakers, those in the public discourse. And that is the difference between indignation and wisdom. Indignation is a very important thing, right? We know something's upset. It reminds us, it draws attention to something that's gone wrong. It helps us focus, right, on a series of things happening. This is the one that's problematic. It's like the squeaky wheel on the train car. You know which one to fix when it squeaks. So indignation is important. But the problem is not that people are indignant, and that's supposed to happen when something goes wrong. The problem is that they confuse indignation and wisdom. And this I find to be very problematic. Because indignation alerts you that something's wrong. It upsets you when something isn't right. But that's not the same thing as wisdom. Wisdom has far more to do with where that problem fits in a larger picture, or whether that problem is a big problem or a small problem. And we do say anecdotally, or we do say the difference between a mountain and a molehill, right? Both jut up off the ground, but one is yay high and the other is huge. Well, it's perspective that gives you the difference between the mountain and the molehill. And you can very easily make a molehill into a mountain, as you can make a mountain into a molehill. You can ignore big problems and focus on little ones, and vice versa. So indignation does alert you, right, that something's wrong, that there's a molehill out there somewhere, or a mountain we need to be aware of. But that's not the same as understanding why that's happened or how to fix it. Let me use a metaphor as an example. You have a car. A car has multiple different systems in it, from electric to brake, hydraulic, intake, right, fuel mixture, air, electricity, electronics, frames, suspension. All of these things are part of the car operating. But you also have smaller things inside the car. For example, you've got a cut seat, right, when you sit down in your car. Now, being indignant would be getting into the car and having the slice in the seat pinch your thigh. And then you get upset at the car. You're right to be so. You're indignant. That's wrong. That should not be that way. I shouldn't get hurt every time I sit in my car. And so you get upset about the rip in the seat. That needs to be fixed. That's true. But does that mean you throw the car away? Does that mean you trash the entire automobile? Because you got all these other things to consider. The usefulness of the car, how much it's worth, what it's done for you so far, what it can do for you. You got to balance the effectiveness of the car everywhere else against this one problem. So indignation alerts you that there's a problem, but indignation does not tell you how big that problem is. It doesn't tell you whether you have to throw the car away. It doesn't tell you whether the car won't run if the seat is ripped. It doesn't tell you whether the car is even functional now. All it tells you is, I don't like it. Wisdom asks you to locate that one piece inside of the larger functioning of the car. Wisdom is a matter of scale. What scale is the ripped seat? The ripped seat is small compared to the size and function of the car. That scaling issue is a wisdom issue. It allows you to locate which problems are big and which problems are small. Without that, the problem is you turn every bit of discomfort and failure into a gargantuan problem. Maybe it is. Maybe you're not talking about a rip seat. Maybe you're talking about a failed fuel pump, and maybe that's something we need to look at seriously. But I don't know whether it's a large-scale problem or small-scale problem unless I have wisdom. That is, I have to understand the size of the car. I have to understand all of its systems and functions and value, and then I can measure the size of the car against the size of the problem I'm dealing with. And this happens in social problems all the time. We find something going wrong in a business, a company, the economy, and we focus on something that's wrong, which is good. We need to know the problem is there, but then we need an extra set of reasoning which says, how big is that problem exactly against the system? Do we throw out the American economy? Do we throw out American society? Do we throw out our political system? What do we do to fix the problem? Well, the question is, how big is the problem compared to all of these? And the only way you can really arrive at that is using wisdom. Understanding, learning, experience. You know, one of the failures of our social media culture and even our news culture is it's a young culture. And youth is usually opposed to wisdom. Youth is very good in indignance. They know when something's wrong. They know when their expectations aren't being met. Most revolutions in world history start from the young, right? Late teen, early 20s culture. As you get older, you realize in scale, yeah, that is a problem, I agree, but maybe not as big a problem as you think it is. And so wisdom usually comes with age, and that's why our young typically don't like it. And that's why I think as our culture is partly getting younger. And that's one thing maybe. We just lack that wisdom. We're good at being indignant, but we're not really being good at being wise. And I'll say this, that indignance is important, but it's not constructive. Wisdom is constructive. building, constructing, learning, thinking, seeing the size, scale, making judgment decisions about what one should do and what one shouldn't do regarding social problems. So I encourage you, as you're reading the media, watching the news, and on your social networks, distinguish very carefully between these two things. And make sure, in a way, that we're not investing way too much of our mental energy in indignance rather than wisdom.